Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fetish Cafe. Today, with me, I'm speaking with Riggatony. And Riggatony, how old are you?
I'm 45.
You said you're how old? I'm sorry, it cut out.
45.
45. Excellent. Okay, and what I'm going to ask is that you tell me what we're talking about today, and then kind of define it a little bit, your role in the whole thing.
Well, the topic for today is going to be we're going to be talking about spanking. I think primarily, and probably some of the other things that I do that go along with that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Now, so I'm guessing you're the spanker, not the spanky. I don't know the terms
Yes,
for it.
that's correct. The top, or yeah, the spanker,
Okay.
the top, the disciplinarian, the dom. It can have a lot of different names depending on the context of the relationship.
Right. So you consider yourself a dominant then, of course.
I'm a top. I don't really consider myself a dom. Like, I'm not going to be the guy, the 50 Shades of Grey guy in a nice suit. I'm more of a. I kind of see myself as a mischievous spirit that kind of just likes to see angels fall. That's kind of the way I put it.
Okay,
Uh,
that's interesting.
I like to be a bad influence, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of a troublemaker than I am. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to be your fitness dom who's going to make you do your exercises. I'll be the guy, like, trying to tempt you.
Gotcha.
Think of like Loki from the MCU, but instead of the scepter, he's coming at you with dildos.
That's not a very fun picture, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, depending on who you are, it's a fun picture. So
True, true. That is true.
yeah.
Okay, so how did you get started into this? When did you first realize you were into this? Like, was there something in your just tell me that story.
Well, spanking specifically or kink?
I would say spanking specifically. Like, how old were you when you realized that you were, hey, I'm into this?
What? I'd never seen any formal spanking. I was always very interested in that particular part of the female anatomy. Let's put it that way. I was always very attracted to women that were, a little bit more robustly built. We'll
Sure.
say with that, and I always kind of liked the idea of it, but I'd never really done any of it. And there was a lot of. I grew up in a Catholic family with a
Okay.
lot of guilt surrounding sex and human sexuality, which I'm sure is a common statement.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was some interest in there, but then with spanking specifically, I was kind of a late bloomer. This was maybe 6 years ago. I went to my first kink event, and it's an event that happens in the area where they have these classes and talks and stuff like that. And I had an opening in my schedule. It's like seminars, but instead of like talking about like how to save on how to this or that in the technology world, they're telling you how to spank people and stuff.
Right, right.
I had an opening and I decided to go to the spanking one because it sounded interesting to me. And I won't forget it because they had this. There was this female dom, professional dom, that was giving lessons on spanking, and she was doing demonstrations. She had three female members of the audience, and when she started her demonstration, she did her little talk, and that was all fine. But as soon as she started the demonstration, it just kind of hit something in me,
Okay.
and I was just like, "Oh, this is my thing." This it's not I hadn't seen that done before, and something about the power dynamic. I'd done a little bit here and there with it, but I had never seen it done in this kind of methodical way. And something about that, the aesthetic of it, just kind of clicked with me, and I was like, I have to try this as soon as possible.
Okay. So,
Was
so
kind of
can
the thing.
can you explain the methodical way that you speak of? Like, like,
Well,
what was the
there's
method?
there's more to it than just smacking someone.
Right.
Because spanking someone for punishment, uh, and spanking someone for pleasure are two different things.
Sure.
Does the bottom want pain? Sometimes they want pain, and I'm fine to do that. But most of the time, what they're looking for is the sensation and the feeling of being, physically dominated.
Right.
And from my point of view, I don't want to harm them. There's a difference between hurting someone and harming them. And there's a method to how you swing your hand, where are the safe zones to hit, where do you want to hit, where do you not want to hit, and a lot of that varies person to person. Like, you don't want to be smacking in the tailbone in general, because that's going to hurt your hand and hurt them, and they're gonna be like, no, I've had enough, really, really quickly.
Right.
There's a way to hit where the impact, where it's more for sensation and not for causing pain. Like, you don't want all of that impact energy to go directly into them. You kind of almost skip off of it, so you get that nice bounce going, because that's part of it. And just the whole, it's all where you hit, how you hit, and knowing when to kind of slow down, how to warm someone up, because you have to warm them up if you want to go for a little while. I mean, if you're just into it to hurt them, you can just hit them full on, and then you're done. But if you know how to draw it out and slowly ramp them up, you have fun for a longer time. They get an endorphin rush out of it, and you just get to to play. It's just fun. Ooh.
Right. So how quickly, when you left this seminar, how quickly did you get to participate in it afterwards?
Well, I had a partner who I'd been kind of chatting with, and we hadn't started yet. And I told her about this, and she was very, very much on board.
Oh, okay.
She really, really, and I've had open relationships for a lot of my adulthood, and me and my ex-wife, we aren't ex because of this, but we are ex for other reasons.
Sure.
She also wanted me to go to this thing and learn and come back. She actually read the much maligned Shades of Grey and wanted me to kind of try that out. So I was kind of learning, and I wanted to do that. I'd wanted to do that my whole life, and I just kind of had this shame about trying. And to her credit, she said, why don't we try this then? But anyway, this other partner I had, she really wanted it, and she wanted it done right, and I was going to learn how to do that. And I would say probably a couple weeks after that event, we tried it for the first time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice to hear that, at least early on, the way you were raised, there was so much shame involved that now you're kind of free in the sense of you're getting to actually participate. I really like to hear that kind of thing personally.
Oh yeah. It was, I kind of started down the path a long time ago in high school. Actually, I had a girlfriend who was definitely, she was into BDSM. She was into, she knew she was a submissive, and she knew she was a masochist. Thing was that you have to remember this. I'm talking about like 1990, 91.
Yeah.
Like in there, we didn't have the internet.
Right.
We didn't have a way to find the community.
Right.
So we were kind of playing whatever we could think of on our own and doing a lot of things that were unsafe, honestly. I'll be honest with that, because we just didn't know any better.
Of course.
We were barely done being teenagers, and we were playing with fire in a lot of ways, and some things went bad in that relationship, and because of that, I kind of put all this and buried it, and I was like, I'm never going to do this again.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then, it's like Pandora's box. Once the door is open, you can't ever really close it.
That is the absolute truth.
So it was always there.
Right.
And I had girlfriends and I had a wife in there, and all of this, there was always this wanting to do these things and this shame in that this was my desire. Because everybody likes to think of themselves as a nice guy. Everyone likes to think of themselves as the good guy.
Yeah.
And that, in my mind, because of my childhood and what had happened with that one girlfriend, this all went kind of counter to that narrative, that internal narrative.
Right, right.
So I had to kind of reconcile that, and it took me a long time. And it wasn't until 6 or 7 years ago when my it was kind of weird. My ex-wife went to a concert with a friend of mine, and me and my ex-wife were opening our marriage up after not having it open for a long time. And when she went with this friend of mine, my friend, they were drinking a little bit, and they started talking about this, and he said, "Yeah, me and my husband have an open relationship, and we're involved in the kink community, and we know of these dungeons and such like that, and hey, we'd be glad to bring you out and show you that lifestyle." And it was kind of amazing. I'd known this person since I was probably about 21 or 22 years old. I knew this person. I knew them when they were barely legal enough to be out at the clubs they were at. I was a musician and they were a fan. That's how I met this person.
Okay.
Don't think anything. It wasn't that kind of fan, but yeah.
No. That's, yeah.
We'll put it that way. I'm a keyboard player. We don't get groupies.
Right.
So anyway, it was just kind of amazing, and they helped us kind of get into that, and it was really, really interesting those first couple of years when the internal walls kind of came down.
Right. So,
yeah.
So one thing that you said that before we actually spoke to each other is that you said you make custom paddles.
Yes, I make my own paddles.
Can you?
I have a wood shop, and it's something I enjoy doing.
Okay, so they're made out of wood. Then do you have like? Do you just kind of? I'm just curious how you approach it. Do you look up like what the best design would be? Do you just kind of go with your gut?
I kind of go with my gut. I kind of like to be inventive. Play with different types of materials and different ways of like doing the handle and stuff like that. Different shapes. There's more to anybody can just make something that looks like a mini cricket bat and be done with it. I like to get a little more creative than that.
Right.
And then sometimes you'll you can wrap them in material like leather or something to give them a softer smack or a different kind of sensation. I had one friend that this was a friend that was into some serious kink stuff.
Gotcha.
There's an old George Carlin joke that anyone who drives slower than you is an idiot, and anyone who drives faster is a maniac.
Right.
And the exact same thing applies to kink. Anyone kinkier than you is out of their freaking mind. Anyone less kinky than you is too vanilla. Yeah, it's just kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
And this is a friend of mine that definitely falls in. I think she's out of her freaking mind, but hey, I'm not going to yuck her yum. She enjoys this. She had me make this paddle. She wanted me to make the most evil paddle possible. And I made it kind of like a hairbrush, but she wanted little tacks in it because she was into.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know. I said, "Are you sure you want this?" And I made it, and I said, "Okay, if you use it, just don't ever send me pictures of the result."
Right? Yeah.
So, but that was kind of fun too, though, because I got to let my kind of my sadistic mind, come out and design this thing. Even though I would never, ever come near anyone that I was like, okay, you and your dom, you go have fun and you let me know how it goes for you. And I made it look really evil. It looked like a horror film prop.
Oh my god.
It's like something like a Hellraiser movie or something. And they were very little. The tacks were only maybe 3 or 4 millimeters, like in length, and they weren't too close together. They were spread out so that it wouldn't do too much damage, but there'd be the sensation of that little puncturing.
Oh my gosh, that still sounds awful.
Yeah, I know it does. Anyone not into it, and she thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's awesome. I mean,
yeah, she thought it was fantastic. I was like, yeah, have fun. Just don't ever, ever, ever send me pictures of the results.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you participate pretty regularly, you would say?
Oh, yes. I have, I think I said when we were talking earlier, I'm polyamorous. And
yeah.
I have, and it also fits with being bad influence and not really a dom, where I don't really have a whole bunch of subs. I have a number of different relationships. Some of them are more traditional, dominant, submissive, and some of them are other things. I currently have, I think 3 or 4 women that I play with on a semi-regular basis. Depends. Okay. I have one regular girlfriend that she and I plan to live together, and she's aware of this, and she has other partners. I have other partners. It's all just kind of works out. But
I mean, hey, as long as everybody knows what's going on and they're okay with it, then
it's all about, throw out the cliche, but open and honest communication goes a hell of a long way. Relationships, monogamous or not.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Just being honest with everybody is a big advance, and a little bit much to ask of most humans because we're humans, but hey, we try.
Right. Absolutely. Now so I'm guessing it kind of goes hand in hand with bondage, right?
Yeah, it can. It's more about the. I think there's a little bit more kind of power dynamic than it is necessarily bondage. Bondage becomes part of that. It's if you ever read George Orwell's 1984, and I do take a very literary kind of artistic approach to what I do. I kind of see it as making art with people. Sure. And that sounds really creepy when I say it out loud, but you get what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
there's the aesthetic to it, and I get rope involved. I like to get people in a position of vulnerability and helplessness, and spanking is part of that dynamic. But in 1984, in Orwell's 1984, there's a line. How does one person demonstrate power over another? And Winston's response is causing them pain. And that's kind of what I think where all that comes from. I'm being trusted with this person to the point where this person trusts me to cause them pain. I mean, we all trust each other not to hurt each other, but it takes a really high level of trust to trust someone to hurt you.
Absolutely. I think it takes a huge level of trust to have somebody tie you up, period.
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing thing. And I get, I think my biggest kink is trust. Because having them in that position where they're totally vulnerable, and I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but my partners tend to be a little bit smaller, a little shorter. And the greatest threat to a woman is generally men. Right. And to be trusted at that level where I have them in a vulnerable position, usually naked, tied up. They've seen what's in my closet. They know what I have. And they're trusting me not to go beyond their limit, which they've discussed and they've told me what that is. Right. And being put in that position, given that trust, is extremely satisfying to me, extremely gratifying.
No, that sounds amazing. It's a nice feeling, right? I even like the way you say it's art. It puts a different spin on everything. So do you have your own, for lack of a better term, dungeon?
Yes, I have a room in my basement. It's next to my music studio, and I have a small. Like I said, I have the wood shop, and I built my own. I built a spanking bench. I built a St. Andrew's cross, and I've got a small suspension in there. That for it's not a very big room, but big enough.
Very, very interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that you fully
There are 3 locked doors that someone would have to go through to be able to find it.
Okay.
It's there, so I keep it very well hidden.
Well, it sounds like you don't really have a problem discussing it too much anyway, at least in the sense of,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, neighbors, I'm an open book. If I'm in a what I consider a safe space, I don't really consider my rather conservative MAGA hat wearing neighbors safe space. So
Absolutely not.
They come over to borrow a cup of sugar, and I'm certainly not. I'm certainly going to make sure there aren't any anal hooks out on the coffee table before they come over.
Right. Absolutely.
Not that those would be on the coffee table anyway, or not that they would even know what it was.
I was about to say I don't believe they would know what it was, truthfully.
They ask it, it'd be like, "Oh, they're fishing. I just fished for really big fish."
Right. Well, awesome. Excellent. Is there anything else you would like to say to someone that may be listening? Any words of wisdom, words of advice, anything like that, or you think you've covered it all?
I think the 2 biggest things I usually say to people, or like to say, is, first of all, and this could go for anyone, tops, bottoms, never do anything. Never, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? That's one thing. Mm-hmm. So if you're ever put in a situation where you're doing something and you're just doing it for somebody else, and you're not really getting anything out of it, and it's not really fun for you, don't do it. Don't be doing it.
Right.
And also trust instincts. If anything ever feels wrong, it probably is. I run into a lot of people that I seem to know a lot of people that before they meet me or they've met other people, they have bad experiences with BDSM, and that's because unfortunately there are a lot of people out there using this as a cover for more nefarious purposes. So you got to watch out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
generally
be mindful.
speaking, trust your instincts. If you think it's wrong, it is.
Awesome. That's really good advice. So we're rounding the end of the episode. I just want to absolutely thank you. It's been a wonderful interview speaking with you. And yeah, thanks again for coming on the show and having this conversation.
No, it was my pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for the support. It has been overwhelming. I am continuing to try and find people to speak with all the time so we can continue to bring you more and more episodes. So everyone, thanks for listening. Riggatony, thank you again. And have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.